The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and wondered what secrets waited in the darkness between worlds. In the year 2147, they finally found out, and the answer would cost them everything. Admiral Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the starship Liberty, Earth's first vessel capable of traveling between stars. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles, but nothing in his long military career had prepared him for this moment. On the main screen before him, an alien ship hung in the blackness of space. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Shaped like a silver teardrop and bigger than anything humans had ever built. "They're hailing us, Admiral," said Lieutenant Kyle Morris, his voice shaking slightly. Carter took a deep breath. "Put them through." The screen flickered, and humanity saw its first alien face. The creature called itself Ambassador Zol Vex of the Valorian Galactic Empire. It had pale blue skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a mouth full of small, sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice was smooth and pleasant, like honey poured over broken glass. "Greetings, children of Earth," Zolvex said. "We have watched your species grow for many centuries. You have finally taken your first steps into the greater galaxy. The Valorian Empire welcomes you." Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Humanity was not alone. There was a vast civilization out there, spanning thousands of star systems. Ruled by the Valorians for 50,000 years, people danced in the streets. World leaders gave speeches about a new era of peace and progress. Dr. Lisa Summers, Earth's chief expert on alien languages, worked day and night to learn Valorian communication. She was a brilliant woman with short brown hair and an endless curiosity about the universe. "They're offering us membership in their empire," she told the United Earth Council. "Access to technology far beyond our own. Medical advances that could cure every disease. Energy sources that could end poverty forever." General Kevin Brooks was not so excited. He was a hard man with a square jaw and suspicious eyes. He had spent his whole life preparing for threats to Earth, and his instincts told him something was wrong. "What do they want in return?" he asked. Dr. Summers hesitated. "The details are still being translated, but they say it's standard procedure for new member species." The treaty was signed 3 months later. Earth officially became part of the Valorian Galactic Empire. Ships from distant worlds began visiting human cities. Alien technology flowed into Earth's laboratories. For a brief moment, it seemed like humanity's greatest dreams had come true. Then the true price was revealed. 6 months after the treaty, High Archon Velthax himself contacted Earth. He was the supreme ruler of the Empire, an ancient Valorian whose face looked like cracked stone and whose eyes burned with cold fire. "The integration period is complete," Velthax announced. "Earth will now provide its contribution to the Empire. 90% of your population will be redistributed to serve the needs of our civilization. You have 1 rotation of your planet to begin the transfer." General Brooks felt his blood turn to ice. "They want 7 billion people as slaves." The United Council sent immediate protests. They begged for negotiation. They offered other resources, minerals, technology, anything else. Ambassador Zolvex simply smiled that terrible smile. "This is not a negotiation," he said. "This is your purpose. Lesser species exist to serve the Empire. You should be grateful we allow the remaining 10% to continue existing on your homeworld." Earth refused. The next morning, the sky turned red. Admiral Carter was on the moon base when the attack began. He watched in horror as the Valorian Armada dropped out of hyperspace 300 warships, each one capable of destroying a city. They did not send warnings. They did not demand surrender. They simply began firing. The first wave targeted military installations. Earth's defense satellites were torn apart in seconds. The second wave hit the major cities. New York vanished in a flash of white light. Beijing, Moscow, London, Tokyo, one by one, the great cities of humanity were erased from existence. The third wave was systematic destruction. The Valorians moved across the planet like farmers burning a field, leaving nothing but ash and glass where forests and towns had stood. Dr. Summers was in an underground bunker when her home city of Chicago was destroyed. She felt the ground shake and heard the distant thunder of the bombardment. When she finally emerged 3 days later, there was nothing left. The lake had boiled away. The buildings were dust. Millions of people she had known were gone. General Brooks survived in a military bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. He had moved his command center there weeks before, trusting his instincts that something bad was coming. As reports came in, each one worse than the last, he felt a cold fury building in his chest. 7 billion, his aide whispered, tears streaming down her face. They killed 7 billion people in 72 hours. The Valorians did not even bother to finish the job. High Archon Velthax appeared on every surviving screen across the planet, his stone face showing no emotion. "Let this be a lesson to all species who defy the Empire," he said. "Earth is now a dead world. We leave your scattered survivors as a monument to the cost of disobedience. May the galaxy remember what happens to those who forget their place." The Armada left, leaving only a small occupation fleet of 20 ships in orbit. To the Valorians, the matter was closed. Humanity was broken. Earth was a graveyard. There was nothing more to be done. They could not have been more wrong. In the darkness of the ruined world, survivors began to emerge. From bunkers and submarines, from mountain caves and underground cities, from bases on the Moon and Mars and the asteroid belt, 800 million humans had escaped death. 800 million humans who had lost everything: their families, their homes, their entire civilization. General Brooks stood in his bunker, staring at a map of the destroyed Earth. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. From rage. "They think we're finished," he said quietly. "They think we'll lie down and die like good little servants." He turned to face the officers who had gathered around him, the survivors of Earth's military, the last line of defense for a species pushed to the edge of extinction. "They made a mistake," Brooks continued, his voice growing stronger. "They left us alive, and now we're going to make them pay for every single life they took. Every city, every child, every dream they burned." He slammed his fist on the table. "This isn't over. This is just the beginning. And when we're done, the whole galaxy will know the price of attacking humanity." In the cold silence of space, the Valorian occupation fleet orbited Earth without worry. They had no idea that in the ashes below, something far more dangerous than they could imagine was beginning to wake up. Humanity was not dead. Humanity was angry. And the universe was about to learn why that was the worst possible news for anyone who had made themselves humanity's enemy. The first year after the bombardment was about survival. Nothing more. Commander Nicole Harris guided her submarine through the dark waters of the Atlantic Ocean. The vessel was called the Deep Shadow, and it carried 300 souls: sailors, engineers, and their families who had been underwater when the sky caught fire. Above them, the ocean was poisoned with ash and radiation. But down here, in the cold and the darkness, they were alive. "How long can we stay down?" asked her second officer, a young man named Peter Walsh. Nicole checked the instruments. The submarine had been designed for long missions, but not for living permanently underwater. 6 months if we ration everything. Maybe 8 if we get lucky. She didn't feel lucky. Through the radio, she had heard the final screams of cities dying. She had listened as her sister's voice cut off mid-sentence when San Francisco was destroyed. Now there was only static on most frequencies, and the occasional whisper of other survivors trying to find each other in the ruins of the world. But Nicole Harris was not a woman who gave up easily. She had served in the Navy for 20 years, and she had faced death many times. This was just another enemy to defeat. "Start scanning for other submarines," she ordered. "And any signals from land. We're not the only ones left. We just need to find each other." On the surface, the Earth was a nightmare. The bombardment had shattered the climate. Dust clouds blocked the sun. Temperatures dropped as nuclear winter gripped the planet. The survivors in underground bunkers faced slow starvation as their supplies ran out. Dr. Ryan Mitchell was one of the lucky ones. He had been working in the Cheyenne Mountain military complex when the attack came. The bunker had been built to survive nuclear war, and it had held against the Valorian weapons. Now he led a team of scientists, trying to find ways to keep everyone alive. "The water recyclers are working at 60% efficiency," said his assistant, a young woman named Amy Foster. "Food supplies will last another 4 months. After that..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Ryan looked at the piece of alien metal on his workbench. It had come from a Valorian drone that had crashed in the mountains before the bunker sealed. The metal was light as paper, but stronger than steel. The technology inside was beyond anything on Earth. "We need to understand this," he said, picking up the fragment. "The Valorians beat us because they had better weapons. If we can learn how their technology works, maybe we can build something to fight back." Amy stared at him. "Fight back? Against the species that killed 7 billion people in 3 days? What's the alternative?" Ryan asked. "We hide in caves until we starve? We surrender? And become slaves? No. They hurt us. Now we hurt them. It took 3 months. But the survivors began finding each other. General Brooks established a secure communication network, using old satellite systems the Valorians had overlooked. One by one, the scattered groups reported in: submarine fleets in the Atlantic and Pacific, bunker complexes under mountains and deserts, mining colonies in South America and Australia that had survived because they were already deep underground. And then there were the off-world survivors. Captain Megan Torres commanded the Mars Colony Defense Force. When Earth was attacked, she had watched helplessly from 50 million miles away. The colonists had screamed and cried as they saw their homeworld burn. Some had wanted to send ships to help, but Megan had stopped them. "If we reveal ourselves, they'll destroy us too," she said, her voice breaking. "The only way we help Earth is by surviving, by preparing, by getting ready for what comes next." The Mars colony had nearly 10,000 people, scientists, engineers, soldiers, and families who had come to build a new world among the red rocks. They had food production facilities, mining equipment, and most importantly, they had manufacturing plants that could build ships. "Start production immediately," Megan ordered. "Every ship we can make, every weapon we can design. We're going to take back our world." On Earth, Nicole Harris emerged from hiding. The deep shadow surfaced near the ruins of what had once been Miami. The city was gone, replaced by a crater filled with poisoned water. But the Valorian occupation fleet was focused on other parts of the planet. And Nicole saw an opportunity. "There's a supply depot," Peter Walsh said, pointing at his screen. "Valorian. They're storing equipment and resources there for their ground forces." Nicole smiled grimly. "Then let's go shopping." The raid was quick and brutal. Human soldiers, trained for underwater combat, hit the depot at night. The Valorian guards never expected an attack from a species they considered defeated. By morning, the deep shadow was loaded with alien weapons, food supplies, and something even more valuable, a Valorian data core. Dr. Summers was brought in to decode it. She had been rescued from the Chicago ruins and was now working in General Brooks's bunker. The data core contained more information than she could have dreamed: star maps showing every system in the Empire, fleet positions and patrol routes, technical specifications for Valorian ships and weapons. "This is incredible," she whispered, scrolling through the files. "They keep records of everything, including the location of their homeworld, Valoria Prime." General Brooks stood behind her, his face hard as stone. "How well defended is it?" "Very. But that's not the interesting part." Lisa pulled up another file. "The Valorians have ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years, but they haven't fought a real war in almost 10,000. They've become lazy, arrogant. They don't even have contingency plans for rebellion because they can't imagine anyone would dare. They've never faced an enemy like us," Brooks said quietly. "An enemy with nothing left to lose." The next 18 months became a desperate race against time. In bunkers and submarines, in the Mars colony and the asteroid belt, humanity worked like never before. Ryan Mitchell and his team reverse-engineered Valorian technology, then improved it with human creativity. They discovered that while the Valorians had advanced science, they were not innovators. They had used the same basic designs for thousands of years because they saw no need to change. Humans were different. Humans adapted. Humans improved. Within a year, they had developed weapons that were actually better than what the Valorians used. "We call it the pulse cannon," Amy explained to General Brooks during a video conference. "It uses their energy technology, but applies it in a way they never thought of. One shot can punch through their shields like they're not even there." Nicole Harris continued her raids, growing bolder each time. She captured more supplies, freed prisoners, and most importantly, she gathered intelligence. The Valorian occupation force was small and overconfident. They treated their posting on Earth as punishment duty, not expecting any trouble from a dead world. They were about to get a very unpleasant surprise. On Mars, Megan Torres watched the first human warship rise from the construction yard. It was beautiful, sleek, and deadly, built with a combination of human engineering and stolen alien technology. She had named it the Phoenix, because like the mythical bird, humanity was rising from its own ashes. "How many can we build?" she asked her chief engineer. "With our current resources, maybe 200 combat vessels over the next 2 years, plus support ships, carriers, and..." He hesitated. "There's another project. Something Dr. Mitchell designed. He calls it the Prometheus engine." Megan frowned. "What does it do?" The engineer's face was pale. "It destabilizes stars, makes them go supernova." For a long moment, Megan was silent. Then she nodded slowly. "Build it. Build 3 of them. The Valorians destroyed our world without mercy. When the time comes, they need to know we can do the same to theirs." In the darkness of space, the Valorian occupation fleet orbited peacefully. Their sensors showed nothing unusual. Their reports indicated that the human survivors were slowly dying out, just as expected. They had no idea that beneath the ashes of Earth, in the red deserts of Mars, in the cold rocks of the asteroid belt, humanity was building its revenge. Ship by ship, weapon by weapon, soldier by soldier, Operation Annihilation was taking shape. And soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn what happened when humanity decided to fight back. The meeting was held in a place that should not have existed. Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, human engineers had carved out a massive underground base. It was called Cold Harbor, and it was the heart of humanity's resistance. General Kevin Brooks stood at the head of a long table, looking at the faces around him. These were the survivors, the leaders, the scientists, the soldiers who had refused to die when the universe tried to kill them. Commander Nicole Harris was there, her face weathered from years of guerrilla warfare. Dr. Ryan Mitchell sat beside Dr. Lisa Summers, their notes spread out before them. Captain Megan Torres appeared on a video screen, broadcasting from Mars, and there were dozens of others, submarine captains, bunker commanders, resistance leaders from every corner of the broken Earth. 3 years ago, the Valorian Empire killed 7 billion of our people, Brooks began, his voice steady and cold. "They burned our cities. They poisoned our world. They left us to die in the darkness." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "They failed. We're still here. And now it's time to show them what that mistake is going to cost them." The screens around the room lit up with maps, diagrams, and fleet positions. Dr. Summers stepped forward to explain. "We've spent the last 3 years gathering intelligence on the Empire. The Valorians control over 2,000 star systems, with a combined military of roughly 50,000 ships. Their capital world, Valoria Prime, is protected by orbital defense platforms, ground-based weapons, and a permanent fleet of 5,000 vessels." The numbers were staggering. A few officers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "However," Lisa continued, "we've also discovered their weaknesses. The Empire hasn't faced a serious threat in 10,000 years. Their tactics are outdated. Their technology hasn't changed in centuries. And most importantly, they're spread thin. Their ships are scattered across the galaxy, maintaining control over dozens of subject species. They can't concentrate their forces quickly." Dr. Mitchell took over. "We've built a fleet of 200 warships, 50 carrier vessels, and 3 special weapons platforms. Our ships are smaller than theirs, but faster and more maneuverable. Our weapons hit harder. Our shields are adapted from their own technology, but improved to counter their standard attack patterns. He pulled up an image of a massive device, a sphere of metal and energy coils that looked like a small sun. This is the Prometheus engine. We have 3 of them. Each one is capable of destabilizing a star, causing it to expand and destroy everything in its system. The room went very quiet. We're not going to use them unless we have no choice, Brooks said firmly. We're not like them. We don't commit genocide for convenience. But the Valorians need to know that we can. That if they push us far enough, we will burn their worlds the same way they burned ours. Nicole Harris spoke up. What's the plan? We can't just fly straight to their homeworld and attack. We'd be destroyed before we got halfway there. Brooks nodded. You're right. Operation Annihilation has 3 phases. Phase 1. We eliminate the occupation fleet and liberate Earth. This is our home, and we're taking it back. Phase 2. We strike their shipyards and supply lines. Without new ships, they can't replace their losses. Without supplies, their fleets can't operate. Phase 3. We push toward Valoria Prime and force a surrender. And if they don't surrender? Asked one of the submarine captains. Brooks's face was hard as iron. Then, we deploy the Prometheus engines and end their civilization the same way they tried to end ours. The preparations took another 6 months. In the asteroid belt, the human fleet gathered in secret. Megan Torres had done incredible work. The ships were works of art, combining human determination with alien technology. Each one was crewed by volunteers who knew they might not survive, but who were willing to die if it meant revenge for their fallen world. Lieutenant Commander Scott Palmer was one of those volunteers. He was a pilot, 32 years old, with quick hands and quicker reflexes. Before the bombardment, he had been a test pilot for experimental aircraft. Now he commanded the fighter squadron called the Black Angels. 48 fighters, he told his pilots during their final briefing. We're going up against ships the size of cities. Our job is to protect the fleet from enemy fighters and bombers, hit weak points in their defenses, and generally make their lives miserable. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Diana Cole, smiled grimly. Sounds like fun. On Earth, Sergeant Ashley Reeves was preparing a different kind of force. She led the Hellhounds, an elite unit of ground soldiers trained for planetary assault. They had spent years fighting the Valorian occupation, learning how to kill aliens in close combat. Now they were ready for the real war. We're going to be hitting their ground installations, Ashley told her soldiers. Once the fleet clears their orbital defenses, we drop from the sky and take out their command centers. Fast, hard, no mercy. Same way they hit us, the Hellhounds cheered. They had all lost someone in the bombardment. Parents, children, friends, lovers. The Valorians had taken everything from them. Now they were going to take it back with interest. Dr. Christine Yang was the quietest member of the leadership. She was a physicist, small and soft-spoken, with glasses that were always sliding down her nose, but she had designed the Prometheus engine, and she understood better than anyone what it could do. I want you to know something, she told General Brooks privately. I built this weapon because it was necessary, because we need the threat to make them take us seriously. But every time I think about actually using it, I feel sick. Billions of people live on Valoria Prime, not just soldiers, families, children, people who never had anything to do with what happened to Earth. Brooks put a hand on her shoulder. I know, and I hope we never have to use it. But they made a choice when they attacked us. They decided that human lives didn't matter. Now they have to live with the consequences of that choice. If they surrender, nobody else has to die. But if they force us to keep fighting. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The night before the fleet launched, Brooks addressed every human survivor through a system-wide broadcast. His face appeared on screens in bunkers and submarines, in the Mars colony and the asteroid bases, in every hidden corner where humanity had survived. Tomorrow, we stop hiding, he said. Tomorrow, we stop running. Tomorrow, we take the fight to the enemy. I won't lie to you, many of us won't survive what's coming. This is going to be the hardest thing humanity has ever done. We're going against an empire that's ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. But we've already done the impossible. We survived when they tried to wipe us out. We rebuilt when they left us in ashes. We became stronger when they thought they had broken us. 7 billion of our brothers and sisters are gone, but they're not forgotten. Every ship in our fleet carries their names. Every weapon fires in their memory. Every soldier fights to honor their sacrifice. His eyes hardened. The Valorians thought they could kill humanity. They thought we would lie down and accept extinction like so many species before us. They were wrong. Humanity doesn't give up. Humanity doesn't surrender. And when you push us to the edge, when you take everything we have, we come back fighting harder than ever. He raised his fist. For Earth. For our dead. For the future we're going to build on the ashes of their empire. Operation Annihilation begins at dawn. Across the solar system, 800 million humans prepared for war. In the asteroid belt, engines powered up and weapons systems came online. On Mars, the last supplies were loaded onto transport ships. On Earth, resistance fighters emerged from hiding, ready to support the attack from below. The Valorian occupation fleet orbited peacefully, their crews sleeping without worry. They had no idea that death was coming for them, that the species they had dismissed as weak and worthless was about to prove them terribly, horribly wrong. Dawn came, and humanity launched itself at the stars. The first strike came without warning. Nexus Station was the largest shipyard in the Valorian Empire, a massive structure floating in orbit around a gas giant, capable of building 100 warships at once. 12,000 workers lived and worked there, and a defense fleet of 50 vessels protected it at all times. Admiral Daniel Carter led the attack. His flagship, the Vengeance, dropped out of hyperspace just 30,000 kilometers from the station. Behind him came 60 human warships, their weapons already charged and targeting systems locked. All ships, fire at will, Carter ordered. The first volley was devastating. Human pulse cannons, the weapons Dr. Mitchell had designed, cut through Valorian shields like they were paper. 3 enemy ships exploded before they could even return fire. The rest scrambled to respond, but they were confused and disorganized. They had never faced an attack like this. They had never imagined anyone would dare. Scott Palmer led his Black Angels into the fight, weaving between massive warships and dodging enemy fire. His fighter was small and fast, designed for exactly this kind of battle. He watched his targeting computer lock onto a Valorian gun platform and pressed the trigger. Target destroyed, Diana Cole reported from his wing. 2 more coming in from the left. I see them. Break and attack. The fighters split apart, spiraling around each other in a deadly dance. Palmer had trained for this his entire life, first as a test pilot, then as a resistance fighter. Now he was finally doing what he was born to do. The Battle of Nexus Station lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the station was a burning ruin, and 43 Valorian ships had been destroyed. Humanity had lost 11 vessels and over 2,000 lives. But for the first time in history, humans had won a major battle against the Empire. News of the attack spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Subject species that had served the Valorians for thousands of years whispered to each other in secret. The humans had struck back. The humans had won. Maybe, just maybe, the Empire was not as invincible as it seemed. The second phase of Operation Annihilation was the liberation of Earth. Nicole Harris surfaced her submarine fleet in the Atlantic as the human armada arrived in orbit. The Valorian occupation fleet, 20 ships that had spent 3 years watching over a dead world, suddenly found themselves facing 100 angry warships. This is Admiral Carter to all Valorian vessels. Carter broadcast. You are orbiting our home. You have exactly 1 minute to surrender, or be destroyed. The Valorians did not surrender. They opened fire instead. It was a mistake. The battle lasted less than an hour. Human ships swarmed the occupation fleet from every direction, overwhelming them with numbers and superior firepower. Meanwhile, on the surface, Nicole's forces emerged from the oceans and attacked the ground installations. Hellhounds, you are go for drop, Carter announced. Ashley Reeves felt her stomach flip as the drop pod launched from the carrier ship. She plunged through the atmosphere like a meteor, the heat shields glowing red around her. Below, she could see the ruins of Earth, the burned forests, the empty cities, the scars left by the bombardment. Her home, her world, the place the Valorians had tried to erase. The pod hit the ground hard, and Ashley was moving before the door finished opening. Her squad spread out around her, weapons raised, advancing on the Valorian command center. Contact left, one of her soldiers shouted. Ashley spun and fired. The Valorian soldier went down, its blue blood spraying across the broken concrete. More enemies appeared, pouring out of the building to defend their position. The Hellhounds met them with controlled fury, 3 years of rage and grief concentrated into every shot, every grenade, every swing of a combat blade. The fighting was brutal and close. Valorians were larger than humans and physically stronger, but they were not used to this kind of war. They had never faced an enemy who fought with such desperate ferocity. Ashley lost 3 soldiers taking the front entrance, but they pushed through, room by room, floor by floor, until they reached the command center. The Valorian commander tried to surrender. Ashley shot him anyway. "That's for my mother," she said quietly, standing over the body. "And my little brother. And everyone else you killed." Earth was free. But the war was far from over. High Archon Velthax received the news in his throne room on Valoria Prime. For the first time in his long life, his stone face showed something like surprise. "The humans?" he repeated. "The humans did this?" His military advisors shuffled nervously. "Yes. High Archon. They destroyed Nexus Station and liberated their homeworld. Our losses are significant." Velthax was silent for a long moment. Then his surprise turned to cold anger. "Send the Grand Fleet. Every ship we can spare. I want these vermin crushed. I want their fleet destroyed and their survivors brought to me in chains. This rebellion ends now." The Imperial Grand Fleet was the largest military force in the galaxy. 3,000 warships, under the command of Admiral Crixtall, the most experienced Valorian officer alive. When they arrived in Earth's solar system, the human fleet was waiting for them near Jupiter. Admiral Carter knew they couldn't win this fight through force alone. The enemy outnumbered them 15 to 1, but he had a plan. "All ships, fall back toward Jupiter. Execute maneuver pattern Omega." The human fleet retreated, drawing the Valorians after them. The aliens followed eagerly, confident in their superior numbers. They didn't notice the clouds of mines that had been seeded throughout the space near Jupiter's moons. They didn't notice the additional human ships hiding in the radiation shadow of the gas giant. "Now," Carter ordered. The mines activated, detonating in a wall of fire that tore through the front ranks of the Valorian fleet. At the same moment, 100 hidden ships emerged from behind Jupiter's moons, attacking the enemy's flanks. The Grand Fleet, spread out in pursuit formation, couldn't concentrate its forces quickly enough to respond. The Battle of Jupiter was chaos. Ships exploded on all sides. Fighters dueled between the moons. Debris filled space like a deadly cloud. Scott Palmer lost half his squadron in the first 10 minutes, but he kept fighting, driven by something beyond fear or courage. Admiral Carter stood on his bridge, directing the battle like a conductor leading an orchestra of death. He watched ship after ship die, human and Valorian alike, and he felt each loss like a physical wound. But he couldn't stop. Not now. Not when they were so close. A Valorian warship broke through the defensive line and targeted the Vengeance directly. Carter saw it coming but couldn't evade in time. The enemy weapons tore through his ship's shields, ripping open the hull and killing dozens of crew members instantly. "Admiral!" someone screamed. Carter looked down at the metal shard embedded in his chest. The world was getting dark and cold. "Keep fighting," he whispered. "Don't stop. Don't ever stop." Daniel Carter died standing on his bridge, watching his fleet battle for humanity's survival. He was 63 years old. He had been a soldier for 40 of those years, and he had given everything he had. Megan Torres assumed command. She had watched Carter die from her position on another ship, and she felt tears streaming down her face. But there was no time for grief. Not yet. All ships, new orders, press the attack, honor Admiral Carter's sacrifice. We finish this today. The human fleet surged forward with renewed fury. The Valorians, already reeling from the ambush, began to break. Ships fled the battle, jumping to hyperspace in panic. Admiral Krixtal tried to rally his forces, but it was too late. The humans had broken the Imperial Grand Fleet. When the battle finally ended, 1,800 Valorian ships had been destroyed or captured. Humanity had lost 60 vessels, and over 15,000 lives. It was a victory, but it came at a terrible price. Across the galaxy, other species watched in amazement. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated the Grand Fleet. The Valorian Empire, which had ruled unchallenged for 50,000 years, was suddenly vulnerable. Rebellions began to spark on a dozen worlds. Subject species that had accepted their fate for generations suddenly found hope. If the humans could fight back, maybe they could too. On Valoria Prime, High Archon Velthax stared at the reports in disbelief. His finest fleet was destroyed. His empire was beginning to crack, and the human armada was coming for him. For the first time in his ancient life, Velthax felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The journey to Valoria Prime took 6 months. Admiral Megan Torres led the combined human fleet through system after system, fighting battles at every step. The Valorians threw everything they had at the advancing armada: ancient war machines pulled from museums, civilian ships armed with hastily mounted weapons, soldiers who had never seen real combat. None of it was enough. Ambassador Derek Cole traveled with the fleet, but his job was not fighting. He was a diplomat, a quiet man with patient eyes and a gift for languages. His mission was to contact the other species under Valorian rule and offer them a choice: join humanity's fight, or stay out of the way. We're not here to conquer anyone, he told the leaders of the Krath Collective, a species of reptilian beings who had served the Empire for 3,000 years. We're here to end the Valorians' tyranny. Help us. And when this is over, you'll be free. The Krath were the first to join. Then came the Nexari, a race of telepaths who had been forced to serve as spies for the Empire. Then the Moldari, the Vrexen, the Solanians. One by one, subject species across the galaxy rose up and added their ships to humanity's fleet. By the time they reached Valoria Prime, the human armada had grown to over 500 warships from 12 different species. But the Valorian homeworld was still the most heavily defended place in the galaxy. 5,000 ships orbited the planet. Orbital defense platforms ringed it like a crown of steel and fire. Billions of soldiers waited on the surface. Torres stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Retribution, and looked at the planet that had ordered humanity's destruction. It was beautiful, a world of purple oceans and silver cities, where the Valorians had lived in luxury while their empire enslaved the galaxy. All ships, hold position, she ordered. Don't fire unless fired upon. General Brooks was aboard a troop transport, ready to lead the ground invasion. He watched the standoff from his command center, his hands gripped tight on the edge of his console. Beside him stood Dr. Christine Yang, her face pale. The Prometheus engines are armed and ready, she reported quietly. Say the word, and we can destroy their sun. Brooks nodded but didn't respond. He was waiting for something. A message came through. High Archon Velthax wanted to speak. The alien's face appeared on every screen in the fleet. He looked older than before, his stone skin cracked and gray, his burning eyes dimmer. But his voice was still filled with contempt. You have come far, humans. Further than any species has come in 50,000 years. But this is where your journey ends. Surrender now, and I may show mercy to some of you. Continue this attack, and I will destroy every last one of your kind. Torres opened a channel so the entire galaxy could hear her response. 3 years ago, you killed 7 billion innocent people. You burned our cities. You poisoned our world. You left children to die in the ashes of their homes. And now you dare speak to us of mercy? Her voice hardened. We didn't come here to surrender. We came here to finish what you started. Stand down and face justice, or we will tear your empire apart brick by brick." Velthax laughed a harsh, grinding sound. "You think you can threaten us? We are the Valorians. We ruled this galaxy before your species learned to walk upright. You are nothing but insects pretending to be warriors." "Then come and crush us," Torres replied. "If you can." The battle began. The Valorian defense fleet surged forward, thousands of ships moving as one. Torres had expected this, and her fleet was ready. Human ships fought alongside Krath destroyers and Nixari carriers. Vrexen fighters darted through the chaos like silver needles. For the first time in history, the galaxy's oppressed species were fighting together against their common enemy. Scott Palmer led what remained of the Black Angels through the heart of the enemy formation. Diana Cole had died at Jupiter, along with most of his original squadron. The pilots flying with him now were young, some of them had been children when Earth was bombed. But they fought like demons. "Target that command ship," Palmer ordered, pointing at a massive Valorian vessel directing the defense. "Everything we have." The fighters dove toward the enemy ship, dodging fire from 100 guns. Palmer watched two of his pilots explode in flashes of light, but he didn't slow down. He locked his weapons onto the ship's bridge and fired. The command ship died in a ball of flame, and the Valorian formation began to waver. On the planet below, General Brooks launched the ground assault. Drop pods fell from the sky like rain, carrying thousands of soldiers from every species in the Alliance. Ashley Reeves and her hellhounds were among the first to land, touching down in the heart of the capital city. "Advance toward the Imperial Palace," Brooks ordered through the radio. "Don't stop for anything." The streets of Valoria Prime became a battlefield. Valorian soldiers fought desperately to defend their home, but they were overwhelmed by the fury of the attackers. The Hellhounds pushed forward block by block, supported by Krath warriors and Moldari heavy troops. Buildings burned around them. The purple sky turned black with smoke. Ashley took a wound to her shoulder but kept fighting. She had come too far to stop now. Her entire life had been leading to this moment, to the chance to look into the eyes of the beings who had destroyed her world and make them pay. The Imperial Palace was a fortress of crystal and steel, defended by Velthax's personal guard, the most elite soldiers in the Empire. The fighting there was the worst of all. Thousands died trying to breach the walls. But inch by inch, room by room, the Alliance forces pushed through. Brooks led the final assault himself. He was too old for this kind of fighting, but he didn't care. He had promised the dead of Earth that he would be there at the end. And he intended to keep that promise. They found High Archon Velthax in his throne room, surrounded by the last of his guards. He sat on his ancient seat of power, watching them enter with those burning eyes. "So," he said calmly, "the insects have reached the throne." Ashley raised her weapon, but Brooks stopped her with a gesture. "High Archon Velthax," he said, "you are charged with genocide against the human race. 7 billion counts of murder. The destruction of cities, ecosystems, and cultures. The enslavement of countless species across the galaxy." He stepped closer. "You will stand trial for your crimes. You will face justice, and your empire is finished." Velthax stood slowly, his ancient body creaking. "Justice? There is no justice in this universe, human. Only power. I had power, and I used it as I saw fit. You would have done the same." "No," Brooks replied. "We wouldn't have." He turned to Dr. Yang, who was standing near the doorway. "Power down the Prometheus engines. We're not destroying their sun." Velthax's eyes widened in surprise. You had the weapon aimed at our star? You could have killed us all?" "Yes. But we chose not to. Because we're better than you. We're not going to commit genocide to punish genocide. We're going to show the galaxy that there's another way." For a long moment, Velthax was silent. Then something strange happened. His stone face cracked, and what might have been a tear leaked from one of his burning eyes. "You are not like the others," he whispered. "Not like any species we have conquered." Quote, "No," Brooks agreed. "We're not, and that's why you're finished." Velthax was taken into custody. The Valorian Empire, which had ruled for 50,000 years, collapsed within weeks. Without their supreme leader, without their fleet, without the fear that had held their subjects in line, there was nothing left to hold the system together. Humanity established the Terran Coalition, a new alliance of free species, built on equality and cooperation rather than conquest and slavery. Derek Cole worked tirelessly to bring former enemies together, helping them build something better from the ashes of the old order. On Earth, the work of rebuilding began. The planet was still scarred, still poisoned, still missing billions of people who would never come back. But life was returning. Trees were beginning to grow again. Children were being born. Cities were rising from the ruins. A memorial was constructed in what had once been New York City. It was a wall of black stone, stretching for miles, inscribed with the names of every person who had died in the bombardment. 7 billion names. It took years to complete, and when it was done, people came from across the galaxy to see it. To remember. To promise that nothing like this would ever happen again. General Kevin Brooks lived to see the memorial finished. He was an old man by then, his hair white and his body tired. But his eyes were still sharp, and his voice was still strong. On the day of the dedication, he stood before a crowd of millions, humans and aliens together, all of them citizens of the new coalition. "We did not seek war," he said. "We did not want revenge. But when they tried to erase us from existence, they learned the truth that every species in this galaxy now knows." He looked up at the names carved in stone, the record of humanity's greatest loss and greatest triumph. Humanity does not go quietly. Humanity fights. Humanity survives. And if you push us far enough, if you take everything from us, we will come back stronger than before. He turned to face the crowd, humans and aliens standing together in the ruins of a reborn world. We won. But more importantly, we won without becoming what we were fighting against. We showed mercy when we could have shown destruction. We offered freedom when we could have taken slaves, and that is why this coalition will last. That is why the galaxy will never again be ruled by fear. He raised his hand in salute. For the 7 billion, for Earth, for the future. The crowd roared. Ships flew overhead in formation, and on 1,000 worlds across the galaxy, former slaves and former masters alike looked to the sky and saw something new. Hope. The age of empires was over. The age of coalition had begun. And at its heart stood humanity battered, scarred, forever changed by the fire that had almost consumed them, but still standing, still fighting, still reaching for the stars, always.